And then I turned the page and there was a stage direction that said that my character enters wearing nothing but boots. And I read it and my heart was like,
boom. Absolutely.
Oh, I didn't know that.
So that was not even a conversation
No.
we got in the audition.
No.
See, that
And it
to me
wasn't-
is crazy.
Yeah.
Today's guest is James Robert Moore, currently the director of Greatest Days, the official Take That musical. He was also the associate director for 222, a ghost story at the Apollo Theatre in the West End, and also Shirley Valentine with the lovely Sheridan Smith. Just putting it out there, Sheridan, you'd be my dream guest. So DM me. Also, James has a podcast called Passing Out, which I believe Kathy Burke is a massive fan of. James is also going to be a published author in 2025 with his debut novel, Not Good Enough. Please welcome James Robert Moore. I'm going to delve straight in.
Okay.
I'm going to ask you the question. Okay, what book have you read recently that had a delightful intimacy moment that maybe propelled the story forward or just really resonated with you?
I read lots and lots, as you know.
You do. I mean,
do.
I must admit, and you post pictures on your Instagram page about what books you've read, and I always go, "Oh my God, I really need to up the game." I'm very, very impressed.
It's just being on the tube a lot.
That's
all
the life
reading
of
time.
London.
There's a few actually. I would say there's a really wonderful book, which if you haven't read, I can't remember if I've spoken to you about this or not. It's called The Song of Achilles by Madeline Miller.
Okay.
It's not, it was written in 2011, but it is just such a beautiful, beautiful love story between two male characters. And what I love about it is that it's sort of the first book that I'd read where the intimate moments are romantic
Nice.
and beautiful and written with such like just really achingly full of love that it sort of, I hadn't really read anything like that before.
It wasn't gratuitous.
No, it wasn't at all. And it moves the story along because it's about how they are in love with each other and
Amazing.
obsessed with each other in a healthy way. And yeah, I just hadn't read anything like that before that didn't just make a same-sex relationship between two men just something that was like
based on love.
yeah,
Based on intimacy.
rather than like it's hard and fast
Yes.
or kind of
Which so often happens in like movies that have got themes of LGBTQ plus either tends to really a lot of the time focus on, the intimacy, but really, really jumping in at the deep end. It doesn't,
and of course that happens too.
Of course.
But it's nice to read it in a totally different way. It's so beautifully written. Oddly, I think they've tried to or I keep hearing they're trying to like make it into a series or something, but it doesn't ever seem to go anywhere. I don't know why, because it's
you
so
should make
made
that
for it.
happen.
Oh, I mean, it's a very famous book, Ian.
You should make that happen.
Maybe
Put that out there. Put that out there. Put that into the theatre gods and the film gods.
It'd be
that's
really
gonna
good.
happen.
Yeah, it'd be a really good theatre piece.
There we go.
Well, there we go. I also read a really good book called. Wait, I'll do that again in a
That's
minute.
okay.
That's it. I also read a really good book called Just by Looking at Him, which is by Ryan O'Connell, and he has cerebral palsy. The writer, he made a TV show on Netflix as well. But the book is about a character called Elliot who has cerebral palsy, and it's about him trying to sort of maintain his relationship, which has become a little bit stale. And so what he actually does is hires a sex worker to basically help him sort of explore himself and his body more. And that again is written, it sort of has both sides of it. It has the romantic side, but then it has the sort of more seedier side, if you like, of kind of like hookup culture.
Okay.
And having kind of both sides of the coin is really interesting to read about what it is that makes him feel good about himself and his body.
Nice.
And what doesn't.
Okay.
And what he discovers along the way through being intimate with someone else.
And is the intimacy quite defining within the storyline?
That is the main crux. It's him going.
Is finding that intimacy.
This sex worker called River, and basically forges a relationship as kind of best they can with each other, and it's absolutely like it's integral to the plot.
And do you know the actors were in that? Any idea?
That's the book.
Oh, that's the book. That's the book.
Sorry, I confused you, but he did also do a TV show, but
okay.
The writer Ryan was in that TV show himself. It's of a kind of similar theme, but that's less about just about sex.
Could you see this playing out on stage?
I think it would be really interesting. It's an interesting story to tell, and one that we don't really hear about.
Well, this is it. This is the conversations about, marginalized groups and people who are also not represented in TV, film and theatre. We see it all the time. So,
who also have, I know being intimate is not just about sex, but people that also have sex.
Of course. Absolutely. Yeah. And I think those are the stories that we need to tell as well. Moving on to talking about TV, film and theatre, I would love to know if there's your favorite intimacy moment you've ever seen on screen, maybe, or TV, that when you've watched it, it's actually really made you think, think about it. It's not just because so often we see intimacy moments in TV and film and theatre, and they're fleeting moments, and we don't necessarily pay much attention unless it's very, very gratuitous. Then people start talking about, did you see the episode of blah, 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 because there'd be full frontal nudity or there'd full real nudity, but about the moments where actually there was an intimacy moment in that you went, that's beautiful, or that really resonated with you.
There's a really wonderful film from a few years ago called Matisse and Maxime, which is by a writer and director called Xavier Dolan. It's a Canadian film. And the story is about these two friends, Matisse and Maxime. And I can't remember which one, but one of their siblings is making a project, a film project. And in it, they are creating this short film, and they need sort of two people to kiss, two boys to kiss. So she kind of cajoles Matisse and Maxime into doing the kiss, and they're very kind of reluctant to do it, and then in the end are like, all right, we're doing it for you to kind of help you out with your film project. And they kiss each other and have this moment of, what was that?
Spark.
A
moment
that they hadn't explored at all, and also they've sort of done it for the film, and then it sort of spirals into them going, we're really confused now about what this is and what we've done. It's a really, really excellent film. It's really heartbreaking, but that initial moment of that first kiss is just a really wonderful. You see the kind of realization, and they're sort of quite quickly out of it, but that's what the film is about.
Yeah.
So just seeing that initial seed is really beautiful.
Yeah.
It's well worth a watch. It's a really, really brilliantly made film.
And you just shined light on elements of intimacy that I love. Some of my favorite moments of intimacy are the most innocent, sweet moments that spark onto romance and love, and then onto all the other juicy, wonderful stuff that, relationships bring or intimacy can bring. And that's why I love TV series like maybe Heartstoppers, where there's loads of intimacy moments, and they're very, very subtle and beautiful, and they're
innocent,
and they're so innocent, but they're beautiful. The incredible director A. Rosalind, who directs that, and David Thacker, who's the intimacy coordinator. Incredible job. And for me, watching that, I go, wow, we're able to get so much beautiful nuance and intimacy moments without it becoming gratuitous, and which is, which I'm glad we're seeing more of in TV, especially with same-sex relationships, because it hasn't always been portrayed like that. I'd love to ask you a question, when you're actually, obviously you direct, you're also an actor. When you're in the rehearsal room yourself, is there any sort of conversations or any process you go through how you actually try to make your cast or crew feel comfortable when you're working with moments of intimacy?
I think it's obviously about creating a safe environment, actually not just for intimacy, but for everything, in order to be able to play and make something that everybody feels a part of them is in. And you don't allow people to be ugly and make mistakes and make big, bold choices if you haven't kind of fostered an environment that allows people to do that. And I guess that goes hand in hand with intimate moments. If people aren't feeling comfortable, if they don't, it's a big thing to say to somebody, hi, you don't really know each other. It's, perhaps week 2 or week 3, depending on your how long you've got for your rehearsal process. This scene, you need to kiss or you need to hold hands, and it's got to seem convincing.
Yes. And that can actually happen.
Yeah.
That can actually happen like day 2, day 4.
Yeah.
And even in TV and film, even worse, it could be somebody who's a day player. They're brought in and literally they're meeting their scene partner that morning. They're having a rehearsal, and then they're doing, have a rehearsal, and then you're into simulated sex.
Yeah, you think of adverts that you watch when, they're people are couples, and they're not real. I mean, sometimes they are real couples.
No, absolutely.
But a lot of the time they're not. And us having the kind of background knowledge that we have, know that those two people will have just met that morning.
Absolutely.
And are pretending to be a very happy family and are holding hands or hugging or whatever, and they don't know each other at all.
Absolutely.
You've got to feel comfortable, because if we're going to buy into that product, if it's an advert, or if we're going to buy into that relationship, if we're watching it on stage or screen, it has to feel convincing.
And leading on, so have you had any incidents in your entire career where maybe it has been challenging for you as an actor, or maybe as a director, when it's come to moments of intimacy?
Yeah, I think that there's one that really sticks out, in which I was in a play, and I can remember getting the script, and when you first graduate and you
highlight everything.
How many lines I was looking through and doing oh great, I've got that line, I've got that line, I've got that line. And then I turned the page, and there was a stage direction that said that my character enters wearing nothing but boots. And I read it, and my heart was like, boom.
Absolutely.
I didn't know that.
Yeah.
And
so that was not even a conversation that we got in the audition.
No.
See, that
and it wasn't,
is crazy.
Yeah, and you're talking, this was, I want to say a long time ago. It wasn't. It was like 10 years ago, which is.
But in the world of intimacy,
it's massively a long time ago.
Massive long. We've come a long way since then.
Yeah.
But sorry, carry on.
And I can remember seeing that and going, right, okay. Now I look at it and I go, actually, it wasn't really integral to the story. You absolutely could have cut it out.
There you go.
It did serve a purpose in the show. It was there sort of for a reason. But it sort of just made me very scared and apprehensive about going into that rehearsal process, and it wasn't discussed. And then when we got to sort of that scene, obviously in rehearsals, you're in rehearsal clothing, so you don't do it. But I do remember there was a bit of a discussion from the director, when should we do this? And I remember going, well, not in the rehearsal room. We're in a very chilly church hall, not now. And then we got onto the stage, and then suddenly I had this real moment of, in the dress rehearsal, I'm going to have to do it today. And I'm really scared about that.
And there wasn't many conversations.
There wasn't any conversation.
Any.
It's in the script. It's written down. Therefore, you have to do it. And now that wouldn't happen.
Absolutely not.
But at the time, it was just, well, that's the part. Get on and do it. And I did, and there was something that did feel, in that moment that we had the first audience, there was something very liberating about,
which is
being
wonderful.
In just a pair of boots. But I sort of directed myself, and I hadn't directed then, but I sort of directed myself, I think, of, I'm going to be very strategic with this towel so that really nothing is going to be seen. And spoke to the other actor who was involved and said, let's sort of make sure that we don't. And he very much he had to also be, do full frontal. And he actually didn't care at all. I had lots of sort of issues with my body and the way I looked. It was a lot deeper than just everybody's going to see you completely naked.
But if there's a procedure and a procedure and a protocol in place that to support actors, because you can be the biggest actor on the planet. You're still going to have insecurities regarding all different parts of your body. And it's really important that we have protocols and procedures in place that actually really, really help the actor to feel safe, secure, comfortable, and be able to actually voice their concerns and to be heard.
Well, even one conversation where I would have been asked the question, are you all right doing this? Would have solved a lot of my worries.
Well,
because I probably would have gone, well, no. And then we could have had a discussion about, well, how else might we approach this? Or what can you do that is comfortable enough? Can you just be in some underwear instead?
Absolutely.
I probably would have gone, oh, that would make me feel a lot better. But that just wasn't an option.
And then if your actors feel comfortable, they're going to give you their best work.
Yeah.
So if you're constantly double thinking on what does this look like? What does that look like? Also, it's like the fact that there's no conversations at the audition element. I mean, intimacy has to be a full arc, so it needs to come from the moment of when the producers decide to do a show.
Yeah.
They need to look at these moments and go, do we need to bring somebody on?
Yeah.
When the actual, the director's reading the script, they need to look at the journey of intimacy and really highlight those moments and go, how can we best support our actors throughout this entire journey? Then when you move to the actual, the audition process, there should be them open conversations going, there's an element of possibly where the character would do this, this, and this, and this, and having open, clear communication and conversations to see how that aligns with potential people, and really should go out if there is expected nudity going out. That should go out in the breakdown as well for the role.
Yeah, and we both worked on the play of the Full Monty. When you are going to audition for that, what you're going to have to do at the end. However, what you don't know is how that's going to be done.
The process.
So even then, there should still be a conversation or something in the breakdown, or a conversation in the auditions where you go, just so you know, this moment, we know the big blinders at the back come on and blind the audience, and nothing can be seen, and the hat goes there, and the hat or whatever. So it can be sort of adapted, but even then, it's very naive to go, oh, well, if you're coming into the room to audition for Full Monty, you must be fine with taking your clothes off.
See, this is it, isn't it? It's like, and when I first choreographed the show in 2014, it's very different to the last national tour I did that finished this year. So there's been many different tours of it I've worked on over the years. And my approach has been very different now to 2014. But even then, you try to create your own protocols and procedures because they weren't available in 2014.
Yeah, well, when we rehearsed it, I remember you having a closed rehearsal room for the first time the boys did the strip fully with taking their uniforms off.
Yes.
And nobody was allowed in that room apart from the six of them, you and the director. All of us, I was the assistant director at the time, we all went outside, and there was signs up on the windows, and the windows were blocked out.
Yeah.
And I can remember at the time going, oh, I wonder why they need to sort of do... I knew why you needed to do that, but that wasn't an industry standard.
No.
So that was pretty pioneering of you, really, because without...
Well, thank you.
But it was because you made those actors feel more confident doing it. And I can remember when we all came back in the room and they had put their clothes back on, the sort of jubilation between them, because the six of them
there was
like,
a real camaraderie.
Great, we did it together. And like, I've seen you naked, you've seen me. That's what we're going to do for the next 6 months on tour. And now I feel all right.
And they felt safe.
Yeah.
And I really appreciate you saying that, because I think in 2014, when I first did the tour, there, like most shows at that time and before, any moments of intimacy, nudity in theatre, a lot of time would fall on the movement director's shoulders or the choreographers, and obviously directors would oversee them as well. But as far as the intimacy protocols, they didn't exist.
Well, it wasn't even called intimacy.
No, I know.
That wasn't a word that was in the room.
I know. And I suppose I was doing the job of an intimacy director before it even existed.
Realised,
and I did. And I really made, because I tried to put myself in their shoes. And I thought to myself, to be honest, as a dancer for many years, I've been asked to strip off all the time. At literally the drop of a hat. and without warning. And I could tell you a million stories where I've had to go in and they've given me a bag and said, put all your clothes in, strip down to your underwear, go in, you're going to improvise to some music, and there's going to be for a TV commercial, for a very big TV company, very big, handbag brand. So I was asked to go into a room and strip down to my underwear, go in, and there'd be a lady standing on a step ladder holding a handbag, and just to improvise and dance. And I was like, I was actually 16 years old.
I know.
And, you know, there's a whole panel of people watching and there's cameras filming. I'm like, where's that footage today?
Yeah.
You know?
And it has to be something that now is just known as standard. You wouldn't do a fight scene without having a fight director.
Of course not.
You wouldn't choreograph something without having a choreographer. And actually, David Thackeray came into, I just directed a third year project at Erdang. We did Anything Goes. There's a few intimate moments in that, a couple of kisses between different characters. And David came in to do that. And I can remember saying to the students afterwards, never accept anything less than this now.
Absolutely.
Now that you are going out into that big wide world, and we, you know, to them, it was just a couple of kisses, but it's installed something in them. So I really hope that if they found themselves in a job where they had to do that again or more or whatever, that they would remember that we came in and David came in and we did all the protocols properly, and it would make them go, there should be an intimacy director here, because I don't want to do that without.
Absolutely. This is about having autonomy for your own body, and about having a voice, and more importantly, feeling like you're not going to be reprimanded, told off, lose your job, or made to feel like you're difficult. Because you are actually speaking up and saying, these are my requirements. And I know we're all going to work and we're doing our job, but we are going to work and doing our job. So it's like, you know, we shouldn't feel bad about having our voice and having autonomy over our own body and advocating for ourselves. I think that's the thing. And
that's really hard to do,
especially when you're young.
When you're a new graduate, that's, you know, why over the years we've heard horrendous stories of people being taken advantage of because they're made to feel by people in positions of power, if I don't submit to doing that, I could be labeled as difficult, or I'm not going to get the next job.
Absolutely. The power dynamics is huge in this industry in that sense.
It needs to switch around.
And I do believe it has changed. I do believe it's changing. It has changed dramatically. And, you know, and I know I'm being asked into all these institutes to go in and lecture and talk to, really importantly, I'm going to speak to all the faculty first. So, and I'm going into, you know, places, a lot of the dance institutes and acting institutes in the UK. And what's really important is saying and speaking to the faculty and saying, you know, you need to know this stuff. There's no point your students knowing this and you not knowing this. I would love to know if you've got any advice for any up and coming directors or actors going into the world of TV, film or theatre regarding intimacy or advocating for themselves.
I think it's exactly that. It's making sure that you're always feeling in control of a situation, and that day to day that may change, and that in one particular live show you know the blocking of an intimate moment beat by beat choreographically.
Yes.
But on that particular day, that's not going to work for you that day. And being able to have those conversations with people that are open, whether that's through, you know, in theatre, if it's your associate director or your resident or your company manager, whoever's sort of running that intimacy call.
Absolutely.
Making sure that everybody feels exactly the same and everybody feels safe enough in that moment and on that day to go, today that's not going to work for me. Can we do a different version of that today?
And what's really important in them moments for me is actually knowing that to go to version 2, obviously when you create an intimacy moment for stage, we also would, especially when you're on tour or in town, you'd have a version 2, because people could have cold sores, people could have sores, people 1,000,001 reasons, and more importantly, they don't need to explain why. For me, that's a big thing. So, so when you're doing you've got a warm up, you've got everybody's doing a dance warm up, everybody's doing a fight call, you do your intimacy call. And in that moment, you discuss with your scene partner and regarding, are we doing version 1, version 2? There's many different ways you can check it in them moments and be overseen by the stage management or the associate or the dance captain. And it's more importantly knowing that you don't have to explain why you want to go to version 2 today. Yeah. And there's so many ways of still telling the story and the narrative and getting the same emotional connection across to the audience without always having to go to that full on intimacy moment. There's many ways you can still tell that story without it.
And you can interpret things differently. I remember doing a youth project, and at the end of the show, written in the script was "they kiss." was the italic slanty writing.
Yes.
And straight away when I read it, the people that were the actors that we had were 16, but I read it and just straight away went, I'm not going to get them to kiss. There is absolutely no need. A lovely, big, massive hug. Is going to tell exactly the same story. Absolutely. And actually a better one, I thought.
Absolutely.
So straight away said to them, I know it says that, you're not going to be doing that.
Yeah.
So that they could go, okay, fine.
And relax. They go, yeah.
And I think it's in terms of advice for directors, it's, I think, going to someone, reading the script really thoroughly, like you would to write down your props list and whatever else, reading it thoroughly so that you can have a conversation before rehearsals begin where you say, there is this intimate moment, I'm thinking we do this, or we're going to explore something different, or we've got somebody coming in to do that for us, so that everybody goes in on the first day with no anxieties about it.
Absolutely. And also you go open, clear communication allows your actors to do their best work. When you're actually going into something, you go, okay, I know what this process is. There's nothing worse. You're actually on week 2 and you know there's a scene coming up. And you've been thinking about that for 2 weeks. And then you get to it, the director goes, oh no, that's done with shadows and puppets. You're like, I wish I'd known that 2 weeks ago. I've been so like you're saying, having those open, clear conversations right at the beginning of the process really, really, and of course, when you're actually working on a new production, sometimes you don't know that there is going to be intimacy because it might not be in the text. It may not be in the stage directions. But as a director, you may go, actually, I think there's a moment here that really will serve the story if we have a moment of intimacy. So sometimes you are finding that in the flow of the rehearsal. And that's when you have those conversations.
You identify it and then go, okay, how do we approach this?
Absolutely. Yeah. And I think you're right, and it saves so much panic and heartache and worry, and because sometimes you have. I hate when I hear it's just a kiss. Oh,
it's not.
And also, somebody, you say 16, their first kiss may be that day in the rehearsal room, and we presume nothing. You don't know what somebody's lived experience is outside, and we know they're only acting, but the first time, and I always say this, although we're acting, we know we're acting, but your soft tissue and your body sometimes doesn't know the difference. And when you're in actually deep into character, so your body's going to respond in certain ways. So it's never just a kiss.
No. And also I think what's really worthwhile thinking about is my partner is not in theatre. If I'm acting in something, we've not had this come up yet, but I think it's an odd thing to say to someone who is not in that Petrograd, I've got to kiss someone 8 times a week and I've got to, this is what I've got to do. It is a weird thing. And actually there might be something that I would go, oh, I'd be comfortable doing that. But my partner might go, I'm not sure if I am. So that again is something that needs to be brought into the room as well, to go, yeah, I'm really happy to do that moment, but I do have a couple of red zones, or I do have a couple of stipulations of I wouldn't want to do that actually.
Absolutely. And this is what I think is really important, is about making sure that when you're working with actors is actually checking in and finding out their boundaries and and I do believe that when you've actually when you've got all the knowledge about your cast, i.e. what they want to get out of the role, what they want to get out of themselves, where their consent and boundaries lie, and therefore they have all of this robust procedure in place, you can almost you can get on with it because you're not worried about what's going to happen. So I do think that's when you end up doing your best work.
Yeah.
James Robert Moore, thank you so much for coming.
Oh, thanks for having me.
And being part of Intimacy 360 Film and Theatre. It's been an absolute pleasure having you here today.
Thanks, Ian West.
Thank you.
Bye.
Bye. Hey, lovely people. Make sure you subscribe and like and press that notification bell to keep up to date with all future episodes.